Phantom Entertainment, a podcast covering your favorite and unknown movies, games, comic books, anime, and more weekly. We appreciate you being here and hope you enjoy the show. This is what we are covering tonight. We are doing part 2, the Great Four Races. We are covering the Ancients tonight. But before we do, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. You can enjoy the show on YouTube, Spotify, Rumble, Odyssey, and more. We also have membership tiers on those platforms if you'd like to support the channel, or you can check out buymeacoffee.com/KOE podcast. But let's go ahead and get into this.
Do they have an actual name?
Yes.
Okay.
The Alterans, I believe.
Huh.
Yeah, the Alterans.
What they look like?
Humans.
Motherfuckers.
Like nothing special.
Motherfucker. What's the word? Uncreative fucks.
All right. So on the last episode, 30, or not last episode, but the last episode that we talked about this, episode 33, we covered the Asgards, and then we had a little bonus episode for the Nox and the Furlings. So we are on the fourth of the four great races.
Where are the humans at? We're a great race. We're above them all, actually.
There's actually an episode called The Fifth Race.
There you go.
To try to explain that. Alrighty. So, the Ancients, or the Ancients, also known as the Ancestors, the Lanteans, and Gate Builders, or Anquitas in their language.
Are they Mexican?
I know.
Don't worry, guys. I'm Mexican. Calm down.
Don't be putting the hate mail in there. It's fine.
What's up, man? We the Ancients, man.
Ancient, bro.
How fucked up was that? I was like, going, man, we made all the Stargates, man.
Hey, they built them
Who else would build them, man? Who else would build them all?
out of rock.
This is what we do, man. I can't even do a good Mexican accent myself, being Mexican.
That's the sad part. But basically, they are ethereal ascended beings at this point with near infinite knowledge and powerful abilities. The ancients are descended.
I don't know. Ethereal. I don't know. Like, I mean, can I still do the do?
They can turn themselves back into mortal beings. So
just start banging and then dip back. Yeah. That's all I would do. I'd come back down, bang a lot, and leave.
The ancients are descended from those Alterans that fled the Ori in a distant galaxy, and were one of the most advanced races known to have ever.
Wait, the Ori was still around?
At the time that the Alterans existed, and then they both ascended in different ways.
Wait, the Ori. I'm confusing them with the other ones. The ones with the parasite.
Oh, the Goa'uld.
My bad.
Yeah, the Ori are basically. You have it'd be like if you were considering the same group of people. One are devoted to science and one are devoted to religion.
Oh,
the Ori were the religious.
Sounds highly familiar.
Yeah. That's kind of how they took this anyway. So. They were one of the most advanced races known to ever existed in the Milky Way galaxy, and reigned for millions of years as a secular and science-oriented power, reaching their level of technology long before the Tauri, which Earth, evolved on Earth, and were known as the builders of the Stargates. So they're the ones that actually created the Stargates.
That's cool.
They follow a rule of non-interference.
Here we go again.
Because the temptation to manipulate and align lower life forms is in some order for one self-purpose could result in this type of abusive corruption and have a great place in the mythologies and cultures and other civilizations. So they don't want to interfere.
Just help them out. Who cares? I mean, okay, if they're... Let's look at it from the point of view, like, we help animals in danger, right?
Mm-hmm. Help us.
Right, exactly. Like, well, you're helping us. That's all.
Right.
Like, we help animals with the oil spill. Bear in mind that's usually our fault, but whatever.
All right, so we have a little bit of history for the ancients here. We have the first Exodus, basically. Hundreds of millions of years ago, the Alterans, the first evolution of humanity in 4 galaxies total. Like, out of all these 4 galaxies, only the Alterans were the first, like, human-type beings. Lived together as one society on an evolutionary path to ascension in the Alteran home galaxy. A split then occurred among the Alterans, dividing them into the Ori and the Alterans. The Ori, who were more religious, while the remaining Alterans were more secular and science-oriented. Eventually, the Ori became so extreme in their beliefs that they tried to wipe out all of the Alterans. The Alterans' numbers were far too few, and they were ultimately forced to hide their ways. Though they considered using their knowledge to defend themselves, they faced a war of attrition, one that would ultimately, they believed they could not win. To avoid genocide, the Alterans built a ship. I built
a ship, man. We get the fuck out of here, man. Get a ship up.
And they left their galaxy while the Ori remained. They both eventually ascended, but their paths
they left. They dropped 3 nukes before they left. That's what I would do. Like, I'm retreating, but guess what? I'm gonna leave a bomb when I leave. Fuck this planet.
Alrighty. Then they have the Milky Way section of their history. After many thousands of years, 50 plus million years ago from today's date, the Alterans discovered the Milky Way galaxy, and they first colonized the planets Dakara and Terra, which would later be known as Earth. So Terra became Earth, and that's where we get the name Terra or terrain and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. It's all from the ancients. The Alterans evolved into the ancients, who built many of Astria Porta, basically Stargate.
Okay, what the fuck is that?
Developed 0-point modules. 0-point modules are like infinite, almost, energy supplies.
Okay.
And established colonies from Dakara on many of the other planets in the Milky Way, most notably Terra, which is Earth, Perclarosh, Tanos, Vizurban, P3R272, and Heliopolis.
I like how they all have names for that one.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of numbers.
The biggest reason being is that that's what Stargate Command named it.
Oh.
So they don't know the actual name of the planet. The earliest outposts are all thought to be established between 175 million years and 50 million years ago. Around when they were also building the Destiny, which is where we have Stargate Universe from.
That was an ancient ship? Mm-hmm. That motherfucker that used to go into the sun to recharge?
Yeah, but think about it. They had technology where it could recharge itself in the sun.
Yeah, but they were freaking out that episode because they were doing everything they could to get away from the sun.
Yeah. And then they thought, oh, it charges it. Wow.
Like all that stuff I said to you? Never mind.
Never mind. Let's see here. And they also created the seed ships at the time to travel throughout the universe.
Wait, what was that? What was that ship for?
For exploring the universe.
What the hell did they...
Because they were trying to, if I remember right, the Destiny, which is the name of the ship, was trying to find the source of microwave background radiation of the universe. Huh. That was its goal. Is to literally...
Did they find anything? Why they did... Like, that ship just took them off, didn't it?
It was already going in its own direction. Oh. Like, it wasn't being manned or anything. It was literally...
And they got on it, and they got stuck on there or some shit?
Yeah.
Damn.
Well, they eventually were able to dial back, but... God, what was his name? The lead scientist.
Apparently he was quite the dick.
Yeah.
If I recall.
Yeah. Their knowledge spread throughout the galaxy, evident by the structures they left behind and their repository of knowledge. At some point during this time, they also formed an alliance with the Asgard, Nox, and the Furlings, becoming a superpower within the galaxy.
Yeah.
Then we have the second Exodus. So we had the first Exodus from their own home galaxy.
Dipping, yeah.
Now we have the second Exodus. Approximately 5 to 10 million years ago, a virulent plague nearly wiped out all of the ancients. Originating at the construction site for one of their new capitals of Visuban. The deadly disease would spread across much of the galaxy.
Gonorrhea. I'm just saying.
Because again, this was before they had ascended, so they were still in human form at this point.
Quite the prevalence of sexual diseases.
Yeah. They attempted to travel back in time to
syphilis,
stop the plague.
Syphilis. Imagine them dying of syphilis.
Oh, God. That would suck. They even tried traveling back in time to stop the plague from spreading.
Hey, don't you fuck that monkey.
But their efforts were unsuccessful. So he was going to fuck that monkey.
Or that bat or that whatever they bang. Why is it when a fucking nasty motherfucker has decided to bang something,
everybody suffers?
Everyone has to suffer because of it. The fuck is wrong with you? Use the condom.
Unable to cure it, the surviving ancients left Earth in a huge spaceborne city, which they named Atlantis. And
that's it. They made Atlantis? Mm-hmm. I forgot about that.
And they headed to the Pegasus Galaxy at that point. Then we have when they returned back to the Milky Way Galaxy. After the desperate departure from Atlantis 10,000 years ago, the ancients returned to Earth. Upon their return, the ancients found humans in a hunter-gatherer stage of evolution.
They killed them all.
The ancients were unable to restart their empire, so many ancients bred with the native humans and set up
nasty phrase. Look, we don't want to interfere. We're going to fuck them, though. We're not going to interfere with them. We're going to fuck the shit out of them and leave. You lying sons of bitches, interfere my ass.
Exactly. And set a path for their future and created future civilizations, while others went on and ascended. So you still had some of them.
Listen, babe, I love you, but I gotta ascend. I'm sorry.
Even after the race had vanished from the galaxy, their knowledge lived on as the Asgard studied pieces of it for possibly centuries or thousands of years.
Imagine the recordings that they took of them fucking the pre-humans. The Asgard just watching them over and over. Those nasty motherfuckers. They're all just filthy as fuck.
Thor had said, "We have studied the ancients' repository of knowledge for as long as I can remember, and we have still barely scratched the surface. It would later be used on multiple occasions, including saving the Asgard from destruction by the replicators. Eventually, the ancient Merlin would de-ascend himself.
Guess who's back?
After coming to believe that the Ori were a threat that needed to be destroyed. As Merlin began building a weapon capable of destroying ascended beings, and was doing so with ascended knowledge, the ancients assigned Morgan Le Fay, a rival of Merlin's, to watch over and stop him if necessary. Eventually, Merlin completed his weapon, but Morgan destroyed it as she was ordered to by the other ascended ancients. However, Morgan came to believe that the Ori were the threat that Merlin foresaw and hit Merlin in stasis, so if necessary, he could one day rebuild the weapon again. And then we have the...
Why not just what?
She basically hid it from the others.
She froze him.
Yeah, because she basically hid that knowledge from the rest of the ancients.
I'm like, yo, how about you write it down in this book? And I'll just store this book so you don't have to be fucking frozen.
Yeah.
Wait, whatever. Okay, whatever.
Then we have the Ori Crusade. So eventually, due to the actions of Dr. Daniel Jackson and Vala Maldoron...
God dang, Daniel Jackson, you were chasing women. Look what happens.
Yeah, that was Vala, yeah. The ancients' old enemy, the Ori, became aware of the existence of human life in the Milky Way galaxy and began a crusade to convert all species of the galaxy to Origin, which is their religion. In order to gain more power with the intention to confront the ancients in battle and destroy them. And again, this is between two ascended... being sets, so they're pure energy at this point.
The Ori were already ascended too?
Mm-hmm. So they had ascended early on as well.
That's confusing me. So they're like, let's all go to heaven.
No.
And we'll still keep fighting anyway.
Well, it's not necessarily heaven, it's just a higher plane of existence itself. So they're not necessarily like they're not beside each other within an ascended space, they're just in the same level of
what's this? I don't understand this religion. What do they want? What do they preach?
The Ori? Power.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they wanted, power. Like it's the most simple of all answers. They just want power. In order to avoid inciting the ancients directly until they were ready, the Ori sent priors and human followers to do their work of conversion, even managing to impregnate Vala Maldoron to give birth to an Ori in human form named Adria.
Oh my God.
To lead their armies as Adria was human at the time. However, the ancients did little or to nothing to stop the members of their race from acting to help as long as they didn't do it directly as an ascended being. The ancients allowed Orlin, which is Merlin, to de-ascend to explain everything to the Tauri. Orlin is not Merlin.
Okay, I'm like, what? Got a weird name.
I was reading it as something totally different, so my mistake. They allowed Orlin to de-ascend to explain everything to the Tauri to help develop a cure for the prior plague. They allowed Morgan to subtly inform Daniel and Vala of where to start looking for the Sangral. Merlin's anti-Ori weapon and didn't interfere when she revealed herself until she tried to tell them exactly where to look. And despite the fact that the Sangral, which is this weapon, was being built by Merlin's advanced knowledge and had the risk of falling into Adria's hands and being used against him. They let Daniel, Jackson, and SG-1 finish and ultimately deploy the weapon. SG-1 theorized that they did this either as they knew it would work and wanted it to, or knew it wouldn't and thus didn't care, while Adria believed that they did. And basically, they erased all the Ori from existence with this weapon. They just destroyed them all. All these ascended beings.
Should have stayed in your own house then.
Yeah. So either way, the Ori were destroyed. But Adria, which is this Ori in human form at this point, took their position and power when she ascended after the rest of them had been destroyed.
So there's the Ori.
So there's only one. Oh. There's only one now. Adria.
Ain't that lonely?
I bet she gets all their power now.
Like
so all the collective power?
Okay.
Because the Ori get their power from worship of their followers at this point. So they're basically taking all that life energy and they gain power. Let's see here. Adria took their position and power when she ascended, and the ancients were forced to keep her from continuing her work in the Milky Way as an ascended being. Despite this, the threat to them had been mostly removed, but at least Morgan, who had been exiled for her actions but not forced to return to human form, believed that the humans of the Milky Way deserved the ancients' help with dealing with the Ori followers, as killing the Ori had saved the ancients, and began acting as a lead SG-1. She was leading them to the Ark of Truth, which is a weapon that the ancients had.
All they got is weapons laying around everywhere.
Yeah. And the Ark of Truth is a device capable of brainwashing anyone exposed to it to whatever truth is programmed in it. In this case, the Oris aren't gods. So Morgan began to interfere again. The ancients didn't intervene to stop her, perhaps acknowledging that she was right, and she was able to act more openly as she ended up going to the Alteran home galaxy, where the only other ascended being that was Adria at this point. With the efforts of Morgan and SG-1, the Ori followers learned the truth about their gods, and Adria's power was diminished to the point that Morgan was able to engage her in eternal battle and in the threat of the Ori and their threat to the ancients once and for all.
Can't fight.
Yeah, for eternity. For eternity. Just constant fighting between the two of them. So Morgan Le Fay and Adria are still fighting to this day.
They're fighting to this day.
Yep. It's going to be like Peter and the chicken.
Like truce. Like a billion years from now, truce. And then like when they one of them lets her guard, and then one socks her in the face.
All right, so over tens of millions of years of their existence, the ancients gradually evolved to become much more advanced than baseline humans, and their neurological makeup of the ancients was much more complex than that of an average human. As their brains further evolved, their intelligence and capacity to store knowledge greatly increased, allowing them to develop some of the most advanced technology encountered thus far. Towards the end of their evolutionary development, but still before they had ascended, they also developed various advanced mental powers, including extraordinary senses abilities and the ability to heal others with touch.
Oh, nice. You couldn't heal from a plague, could you?
Yeah. Partial telepathy and powerful telekinesis. The once ascended Merlin returned to human form in the most advanced genetic state a human could reach, with the ability to sense the presence of and activate a Stargate by just thought. So it's like almost magic at this point.
Oh.
And generating energy beams created with his mind. So this is how Merlin became basically
known as a wizard.
Exactly. It is likely that just before an ancient reaches ascension, this is the final evolutionary state. Some types of ancient technology can also create this state in unevolved humans without ascending them. Within their genetic makeup, with a particular gene, the so-called Ancient Technology Activation Gene, or ATA, used to activate and interact with some of the most sensitive technology, like the control chair, which is used to control Atlantis.
The Morbius chair?
Kind of, yeah. You sit in it and you can control everything within the city of Atlantis all at once.
Make all the toilets stop working.
Just they're not working.
You ever been in a urinal recently? Man, there's no flush there, is there? The shit just sits there.
Depends on some.
Well, the ones that I used, just a pile of shit just sitting there.
Oh God.
You gotta pee, but for some reason there's a pile of shit. There's a fucking t-shirts. There's fucking just random trash in there. Like,
dip. Somebody spit some dip in there.
Probably like they lost their wallet in there, so they dig back in there to grab it.
Oh God.
I'm just saying, like, I had to take a piss today in a urinal. They had just like at the very top of this pile of trash, a nice good old dookie stain.
Oh my God. Like Stan.
Good old turd
Did
monkey.
you shit in the urinal?
Which one of you shitting there? Sure, he was so obsessed with finding out who shit in the urinal.
They also could control with this gene the puddle jumpers, which are the little ships that go through the Stargate.
Oh yeah.
It is still unknown if the gene was naturally occurring within the ancients' physiology or the result of genetic manipulation. Given its predecessor's technology as the master code on destiny, a numeric sequence based on the 46 chromosomes the ancients and humans share, it's likely that the ATA gene, or the ancient technology activation gene, is based on something naturally occurring within their genetic code. Then we have their ascension. Eventually, many of the ancients began to be able to separate from their physical bodies and live eternally as pure energy on a higher plane of existence with an God, if I can even talk. With an infinitely increased capacity for knowledge, wisdom, and unfathomable power, including the ability to destroy entire armies and space fleets with a mere thought. So, pure energy. Can kind of do whatever you want. Despite being an advanced industrialized society, the ancients seem to have a preference for stone structures enriched with naquita for strength while in the Milky Way galaxy. There were also 2 instances of a large monument with an enthroned figure housing advanced technology, such as the Repository of Knowledge, which is basically like a gigantic database. You put your head into it, it grabs you and just shoves all the knowledge into your mind. And the Dakara superweapon, which they used to destroy with the with the help of the Asgardians, they destroyed the replicators with that weapon specifically. Even their technology appeared stone-like. The Stargates had their symbols engraved on them, and they spun when dialing. They were also known for writing information on stone tablets. It is not known why this was. However, it seems that any source of technology that would have proven useless because they would have been able to... sorry, it's written horribly. It is not known why this was. However, it seems that any source of technology would have proven useless because they would also have to be on the same level of tech to even extract that knowledge or information from it. Naquita enriched stone, which is a radioactive material.
Oh, good.
Or just naquita for the Stargates, it seems, is their preferred storage because of its ability to stay intact for millions of years, while paper would degrade and anything tech-based would require a power source that would eventually become depleted. So they kind of forethought, basically, on how long their knowledge would last.
Smart. Use stone. Eternal, practically.
Pretty much. And since this naquita material lasts even longer than that... however, starting from at least 30 million years ago, according to the star map that they had found about Atlantis, the ancients turned to a metallic-looking architecture displayed in the city of Atlantis. Their form of architecture was continued during their existence in the Pegasus galaxy. So while in a totally different galaxy, they changed their material a little bit. And let's make it look more metallic.
Probably because that's just what they found there in abundance, maybe. Who knows?
Could be. And then upon returning to the Milky Way galaxy, they constructed a stone appearance again.
Make up your fucking minds.
One suggestion for this is that when compared with the ancient technology in the Milky Way, the ancient structures in Pegasus are relatively new. As for the ancient architecture created after the return to the Milky Way galaxy, most of the ancients had ascended by then, and the ones that were left wanted to fit in with human culture of the time. For example, Merlin and the Knights of the Round Table. So they wanted to keep it kind of lower tech looking,
right?
So that way they weren't necessarily found out and having to explain how they know all this stuff.
I just like, I'm a wizard. Stop asking me stupid questions. That's all I would have told him.
I'm a wizard.
I'm a wizard. Shut the hell up before I laser you in the face.
The ancients were well known for their belief of free will and will go through great lengths to ensure that others are allowed to make their own decisions without outside interference. The ancients believed in science, reason, and logic. Knowledge and enlightenment were fundamental to their worldview. They believed that the universe was to be studied and that scientific experimentation was essential to gaining an understanding.
And another thing that they followed to a letter was all the planets we travel to, wherever there's a sentient being, we're going to fuck them. That's why they forgot to add that part.
Most importantly, the ancients believed in free will. They believed that the right to choose whatever a person wants to believe is more important than anything else. This has been to their detriment, however, as it has also been their very belief in free will that forces them to respect the rights of the Ori in believing their fanaticism. They also believed that they did not have the right to restrict the freedom of the followers of the Origin to believe in the Ori by brainwashing the true nature of the Ori into their followers for much of the same reasons. Retaining their beliefs of free will as well as rules of non-interference, once they had ascended, the highest law of the ascended ancients is the following: do not accelerate the natural ascension process of those beneath or interfere in the natural life and untimely death of any being. To accelerate the natural ascension of any living being is a high crime among their people, and the others, which are like the unnamed ancients, basically, that are ascended.
There were other beings there?
Well, they call them the others, but they're still ancients, like the ancients race.
But they're not those.
They're just not named, like specifically. So, like, you have Oma de Sala, which is a named ancient, but then all the people that are ascended that are still part of that same race as her, they just call them the others because they don't ever name them. Huh. Like, it's a way to say the group of ancients.
Right. So it's not just this old race.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The others are this race specifically.
Oh, just them?
Yeah.
Okay.
But they call them the others because they don't have individual names for all of them. Those who follow their rules of non-interference have taken harsh measures against those who break them. Oma de Sala was an outcast for her efforts in helping others to ascend, and she was forced to watch Anubis, which was a Goa'uld, use his knowledge to conquer the Milky Way galaxy. Orlan was also outcast when he used his powers to help the people of Valona to construct an orbital weapon to protect themselves, but then intended to use the weapon against other races. Similarly, Sharasar, which was sentenced to protect only the people of Proculus, when she destroyed a wraith fleet over her planet, even though she wasn't allowed to do that. There is a real physical transfer.
I don't follow your rules, man.
Yeah. There is a real physical transfer of energy to the Ori that occurs through a human being's worship of them. For it to have a measurable effect, it requires massive numbers of humans relinquishing their will. This is one of the main reasons the ancients have so strongly believed in strict non-interference in the lower planes, because the temptation to manipulate and align lower life forms in some order for your own purposes could result in this type of abusive corruption as they see it. On top of this, the long-term dependence upon such power leads to vulnerability when and if those worshippers are removed, as was demonstrated when the Ark of Truth was revealed, showing that the Ori weren't gods. The result was a weakened ascended being, while still powerful, with significantly weaker than the ascended beings that they share the same plane with. While this has led to what might be considered a draconian or cruel punishment to those who violate this rule, it stems from their fierce belief in free will, and that to use their powers in such a way would make them no better than the Ori themselves. So they don't want to force people to do stuff, because if they do, absolute power corrupts absolutely.
They don't want to wait, so that the fact that they don't want to force people to do stuff is forcing people to do stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, we won't let you do stuff. Wait, that's completely contradicting to what they believe in.
Kind of, yeah.
Like, you preach free will, but if I try to do something, like, we can't let you do that. Yeah. Well, what the fuck did you just tell me that? What? What the? That's the dumbest shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
By the time they had ascended, the ancients had gathered more knowledge than any other known race. Even now, that knowledge is far superior to that of the Tauri, which is the Earth people, the Goa'uld, and the Wraith. Only the Ori technology which was most likely created with ascended knowledge by the priors, and the Asgard's technology can compare to them. Although the Asgard did admit that they had extracted parts of the Ancients' database and had only been able to analyze a small part of it. Noted for its massive redundancies and the extensive use of control crystals, ancient technology is remarkably similar in both appearance and function to that of the Ori, as they both once lived together in one society, the Alterans. Or had been one society called the Alterans. Ancient technology is also the most resilient ever seen, remaining intact for millions of years without even minor signs of deterioration or decrease in performance. Of all their technological creations, the Stargates, Destiny, the ship, and Atlantis are their most famous, but they have developed devices as diverse and complicated as flying cities, advanced hailing devices, beaming technology, ZPM power sources, long-range communication devices, seek and destroy projectiles, and even genetic manipulation devices. Most of their weapons technology was designed and used during the centuries-long war with the Wraith in the Pegasus Galaxy. However, after returning to the Milky Way, the Ancients had no further need for either more powerful weapons or defensive shields, as their only potential enemies were the far inferior Goa'uld. So, they became somewhat lacking when compared to other technological marvels created during this time. Despite them not making many advancements in weapons or shielding technologies, the Ancients were still among the most powerful of races in the Milky Way galaxy, as example of this being that the latest weapons technologies employed by the Asgard science vessel, the Daniel Jackson, was ineffective when compared to the most advanced shields employed by the Goa'uld Anubis. Basically, he's a Goa'uld that tricked one of the Ancients into helping him to ascend. So he's an ascended being too at this point.
But they came back down?
Yeah, he got forced to a mid point. So he's not a full mortal again, but he's not ascended. He's stuck somewhere in the middle.
Huh.
But he used all that, all the knowledge he had gained when he ascended from the Ancients, and is using that. He almost took over the entire galaxy at one point. In comparison, the drone weapons that were able to decimate Anubis' entire fleet despite being thousands of years older than the Asgard weapons that had tried and failed. As a safeguard, most ancient technology requires the presence of the ATA gene, but in a large number of instances, the gene is only required to activate it. After that, anybody can use it. The only time the ATA gene is required for continuous use is in important and potentially dangerous pieces of the technologies, such as the control chair that you can use to fly Atlantis. Predating the ATA gene, the Milky Way era technology, created after the Ancients' first exodus from their home galaxy, fundamentally shaped their new creations. Perhaps the most famous technology from this era is the Destiny ship. So they created the Destiny ship almost as soon as they got to the Milky Way galaxy the first time. Destiny is a ship in the ancient fleet, which is constructed and launched around 60 million years ago from Earth. The Ancients launched several automated ships prior to Destiny, each with the purpose of construction and seeding stargates throughout the numerous galaxies they crossed, with Destiny itself following in their path to explore those planets and piece together fragments of the complex message embedded in the fabric of the universe itself. After beginning the process, the Ancients initially planned to wait until the ship reached a sufficient distance from Earth to board it. However, because of other endeavors, such as Ascension, they never followed through on their plan. So they didn't even fly to the Destiny ship. The Destiny ship was just flying on its own for millions of years. Because they decided to do other things. They got bored.
Shit gets busy.
Because of this, Destiny has continued on a pre-programmed path on its journey throughout the stars alone for millions of years. With the arrival of the Tauri expedition in 2009, Destiny got its first crew. So the Earth people were the first person to ever step foot onto it.
That was a good show. I liked it.
I wish it would have continued.
It didn't last very long, though.
One season.
Mostly because it was just like, it was a bottle series.
Yeah.
It was just the same location over and over again.
Yeah. I mean, well, for there was a couple of off-world.
Yeah, I remember those.
But, yeah, I think it could have got better if it would have continued. The known ancients that we have in the mortal form, Ayana, Janus, and Emilius. Janus is the one that created from Atlantis itself. He's the one that had a lab that the offshoot of the Asgards broke into and stole the weapon from that destroyed hyperdrives. In the Ascended, we have Oma Dasala. She's at the moment engaged in eternal battle with Anubis. Orlin, he is descended, so he's not an ascended being anymore. Merlin, he descended and died of old age.
Damn.
And Morgan Le Fay, and she's engaged in eternal battle with Adria. So you have two of the named ascended beings that are engaged in eternal battles, just constantly fighting. But that is everything that I've got on the 4 great races. If you guys have any other suggestions, leave them down. And anything else to add before we head out?
The ancients were pervers. I don't know. My mind goes off into the weirdest tangents.
True.
Well, let's go to Earth and just fuck these people.
Kind of what they did.
Yeah, it's exactly what they did. We don't like you to interfere with any other races, but let's go fuck these ones.
Hey, gotta get your rocks off, right?
Yeah, you just gotta get it on.
But we'll see you guys on the next one.